Lastly, on the issue of climate, with regard to cap consistency, I certainly appreciate the additional analysis that has been given to the public and to this council to identify additional mode share strategies that are not a part of the community plan, but will result in increased mode share shifts citywide. I would ask staff to go into more detail about that, but given the hour and the fact that my Golden Hill folks are incredibly patient and waiting, and they need to be heard today too, I will skip that, but I will refer the members of the public and anyone else to the document that we received today, Mr. Murphy, which I think spells out pretty clearly that there are many, many tools available to this council and to this city to make sure that we hit the mark. And I don't want to lose sight of the fact that there are tremendous changes that are involved in this community plan update to get significant shift from cars to other modes of transportation. While we're trying to hit a particular number, it can't be the temptation to ignore that and to really ignore it and not respect the distance that members of the community are going to try and hit these marks. It wouldn't be fair to not acknowledge what is already built into this plan, along with the many, many other tools that we can do to get this done. What I would say is that I think it is important that we keep a close eye on whether or not we actually are moving the needle in the right direction. And so I would ask staff at this point, what commitments can you make to ensure that the community plan would be revisited and possibly amended to demonstrate if sufficient progress is not made in the next 5 years? Mr. Murphy?
Sorry, microphone's not cooperating. One of the things is it's challenging to identify a specific date to reassess these community plans. One thing, as you know, and as was mentioned, these are long-range plans. They're 20 to 30 year horizon. What makes them difficult, however, is that there's no mandate for development to occur. What these plans are is just provide an opportunity and an option for growth. So it's hard to identify if it's a particular year where you can identify as a threshold to determine whether they're making progress or not. With that said, we do value the importance and need to monitor these plans, which is why we included policies within not only this plan but the other plans to identify that we will be monitoring and tracking the mode shift. What we can do is commit to returning to, say, the Smart Growth and Land Use Committee within the next, say, 3 to 4 years. So we can share with the committee our mode share findings relative to the next round of updates. As Brian talked a little bit about, our next round focus on your employment centers. These are Mira Mesa University, Kearney Mesa. Again, as Brian indicated, improvements to the last mile commuter trips, which is where your employment centers are located, can impact your mode share in your first mile communities, which is like North Park. And so it's going to be really important that we can look and compare both the first and last mile commuter trips to see how the needle is moving. We'll provide that information when we go to Smart Growth. If we see that we're not making the progress in the right direction, we can come up with options, and that may be including options that we reopen some of these community plans.
So that you'd make that commitment in the next 4 years or so?
That is correct.
Okay. And I think some of that is detailed on page 2 of the memo that you released today. Lastly, there was made mention of various infrastructure projects that could get this done. And in particular, I'm interested in the proposed roundabout at Washington Park and El Cajon Boulevard. I think that should be singled out as a high priority candidate that could help not only address greenhouse gas emissions, but from an car idling standpoint, but from a incentivizing of pedestrian and bicycle improvements. Is it possible for us to put a project like that project at the top of the priority list and as we work to try to identify funding to construct it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Those are the questions that I had. Again, my appreciation, Mr. Murphy, and to your team for addressing some of these issues. I'll just put out to my colleagues. The chair of the planning committee, which we all look to, I know you all look to, was opposed to this plan update at committee. She now no longer is. And I think that that's a reflection of the work that's been done by the planning staff, my staff. Thank you, Adrian Granda, Steve Hill, Anthony Bernal, and others. So thank you for your indulgence in the time. Obviously, you only do this every 30 years, guys. So thank you for I think what's amounted to about 8 minutes, 9 minutes. I would move the staff recommendation to adopt the North Park Community Plan update with the additional direction to staff that the 11th update to the Land Development Code include reducing pedestrian-oriented infill development enhancement program and the transit-oriented development enhancement program be from a process 4 level to a process 2 level, as we heard in the public testimony, as well as the exemptions for historic resources from parking and FAR requirements, that the timeline for the designation of historic districts as presented by staff be adopted, and that the supplemental regulations for potential historic districts be referred to the policy committee, subcommittee of the HRB, and that the process for triggering a reopening of the community plan as described by staff if mode share shift goals are not on target within the next 5 years, and that the proposed roundabout at the Washington Park and El Cajon Boulevard intersection be a top priority for infrastructure improvement projects. Those, I believe, is an honest compromise for what is a difficult, what has been a long process. That is my motion, and I would ask for my colleagues' support.